today a man who is the commander of the over 1 million strong Indian Army and who managed all its functions to fulfill its national role and assigned missions. He is the man who coordinated and oversaw the planning and execution of Operation Vijay to successfully defeat Pakistan's attempted intrusion in the Kargil sector during May 1999. Ladies and gentlemen, please join me in welcoming former Chief of Army Staff, General Prakash Malik. We would also like to welcome General Malik's brother-in-law, Colonel Khurana, to this evening. General Malik was commissioned into the Sikh Light Infantry on 7 June 1959. He saw action in the 1962 India-China border conflict in the Ladakh sector. He commanded the 10th Sikh Light Infantry on the Indo-China border and played an active role in counter-insurgency operations in Nagaland from 1974 to 1977. General Malik was awarded the Ati Vishesh Seva Medal in 1986 and Param Vishesh Seva Medal, the highest national award for distinguished services in India, in 1996. A graduate from the Defence Service Staff College and MSc in Defence and Strategic Studies from the Madras University, General Malik is an alumnus of the National Defence College, New Delhi. He has authored a book on Kargil War and several papers on defence planning and security issues. General Malik assumed the charge of Indian Army on 30th September 1997 and concurrently with the appointment, he took over as chairman of the Chiefs of Staff Committee with effect from 1st January 1999. He was felicitated with the Excellence in Leadership Award by the Atul Foundation of Pune and also the Distinguished Fellowship of the Institute of Directors, New Delhi. The Doon Citizens Council gave him the Pride of the Nation Award in July 2000. He was Colonel of the Sikh Light Infantry from 1990 to 1998 and continues to be the Honorary Colonel of the Regiment for Life. Today, General Malik will be sharing with us his invaluable experience and his thoughts on leadership. On behalf of the faculty, students and staff of GIM, I welcome you, sir.
I think so. Can I share this? Yes. I've retired, so I have to depend on others now. But I came here a few days ago, 3 days ago, for a meeting, a board meeting, and I thought this was the right opportunity. So I contacted him. I told him, I said, I'm available if you can hold this. So that has, and thank you, Manda, for, and thanks his colleague also, who thought of me calling me here. Now, as far as the subject that I have chosen, leadership, I think all of you will agree with me that good leadership and growth of good leaders is absolutely essential in all societies and in all nations. And the kind of public leadership in what we've got today, you start wondering whether something is wrong and what kind of public leaders are we producing. They have come up. I'm not saying all of them, but some of them. So it was just that thought that made me focus attention on this leadership, motivation, its nature, and nothing better for that than to speak to young audience like yours, because I do feel that if I can make an impact on you people, boys and girls who are coming up, I think I would have done my bit towards society. That is how it started off. The other thing that I want to mention is that mine is not a typical HR talk of lectures, students, teaching, learning, that kind of thing. My talk, you will find, is based on my experience. Totally from my experience, how me and some of my colleagues grew up in the army, learning to be leaders at different levels. And so it's more from practice. I would say almost 46 years having donned the uniform. And since then I have also been on the board of many companies, last 7 years now. So I have also been watching the corporate sector, what is happening there, what kind of leadership practices that we have. There are young, good leaders. There are some, so one is watching that, and my talk is based on both experiences. And I'll be very happy, very, very happy if whatever I try and convey to you today, if you can practice that, not just at your level now, but even later, because my talk, please remember, it covers the whole life. Anyone who has got a few people under him or with him, he is a leader, team leader, isn't it? So whether you have 5 or you have 5 million, it doesn't matter. I had 1.2, but there was a time when I had only just about 40 or 50 people under me. So leadership is something that is applicable and at all stages of life. Now let me begin with India's story as such. I just want to, you all would have been reading all these things, but I want to emphasize some of the things that today we are really on the cusp and going up. And this story that you hear, that you see of the kind of growth, GDP growth that we are making, it's come down now, people are talking in terms of 7.8, 7.9 or whatever it is, below 8. It doesn't matter. I'm sure that is only a temporary phenomenon because it is affecting the whole world. But we will soon catch up. And let me also tell you that 9% and even 8% of the size of the country that we have, of the kind of GDP that we have, it's phenomenal. It's very big, But as I said, so here is this story starting from the time when we need more good leaders because of the opportunities that we have got. The other significant fact which we all used to crave because of the totally uncontrollable population growth, that, as the statistics show you, is now really under control. It is under control, and you find how, whether deliberately or not, but today we are in a position where we have got the maximum young people in the whole of the world today who are really on the go and who are now contributing. It's a situation which we are better off than anyone else. Let me tell you that people in Japan, people in Italy, people in Portugal, people in most other countries, Europe, even in the USA, they are worried about what is happening there is that they have a larger number of older people and who need to be looked after, so their expenditure on social issues is much more, and the number of people who are earning and who are making money is much less. So that way I think we are really much better off than anyone else in the world. Middle class is getting bigger. Again, it's a very good thing that is happening. Because it's the middle class really which conveys the political and social sense, and it will also affect the economy. If the middle class becomes larger, you find more consumption and therefore more production. And today, if you find much more requirement of things, consumption is gone high. It is because of the middle class expansion that has taken place in the last few years. And you can see what we are projecting on 2010. The other thing is that, you know, we have now become a world class primarily because of English. The number of people who can speak English in our country is about the largest in the whole of the world. And it makes a lot of difference, particularly at a time when your economy is getting globalized and the whole world is now shrinking and communication are, you know, becoming a problem. Today, I can tell you that the Chinese, people from Thailand, Southeast Asia, everywhere, they're very conscious of their ability to articulate. I come across many people, meet them in various conferences. They are unable to express themselves properly and they inhibit. Now, luckily, we don't have that kind of. Chinese are going, you know, very deliberately now trying to, for Olympic Games, I went about 3 years ago to China. They had started training their drivers and mess waiters and hotel staff and all to learn English. And that is that was the kind of drive that was the. But here, in all schools today, we have English as a medium, so we have a great advantage there. You know, you can go settle down in any country, you can do the work, come back wherever. English gives you that advantage. And as somebody said, when 300 million Indians speak a word in certain way, whether it is English or whatever, that is the way which will be then registered in the whole of the world. Because you are the largest English-speaking community, you know. So English, as they call it, or whatever, is okay anywhere in the world. There's a lot to be excited about in India today. Very large educated human resource. I think we are second in the whole world, and particularly people who are technologically trained. I go to US and sometimes when I speak to them, I say that #1 country in this respect is USA. But that is because we've got a very large number of Indians with them. You know? And second, in any case, we are there. Economic progress, we mentioned. Technology also not doing too badly. We are doing quite well. We could do some more. Of course, sustainable democratic institutions. You know, there are problems about internal security. You find some kind of instability here and there. But I think our biggest asset as far as the governance is concerned is that our democratic institutions are quite stable, secure, well established, unlike Pakistan, one of our neighbors. You know, so don't get taken in by happenings here, you know, Kashmir, sometimes it happens in Northeast, or sometimes you have the Nationalist problem, or things in the Rizal, whatever happens in Bihar and all. But the fact is that our democratic establishments are very well established. And I think the army also has played the correct role properly, isn't it? Yes. Unlike some of our neighbors, we have not indulged in politics, we stayed away from politics. So, workforce, as I said, will double in 20 years. I've already given you an indication of that demographic advantage that we have. Economic reforms, which started in early 90s, you know, what people don't realize, it's not just the economy part, it is the opportunity part. Today, along with that, is the opportunity. You can apply for a job anywhere in the world. It gives you that advantage. So they are also on the path. I don't think any government, BJP or wherever, whoever comes back into power, it doesn't matter which political party or alliances they come. They will not, they cannot go back now from the economic reforms that we are undertaking. It might slow down sometime, but it cannot be reversed. I have no doubt about that. So we require young leaders to lead the nation, and I am very optimistic. I believe that our younger generation has it in them. All they need is perhaps a little bit of grooming, guidance, and otherwise they have the potential in them. And that is how I selected the topic of my talk today. He said, you can speak on anything. He wanted me to speak on war. I said, I will do that, but let me first focus more attention on. I'll bring in the war, don't worry. Now, what is good leadership? As I said, it's leading a group of human beings to achieve a vision, to achieve a mission, to achieve a goal. And whether you have 5 people under you or you have 5 million people under you, the basic essentials of leadership do not change. Basic essentials are the ones which I am focusing on, and I want you to pick up those. They don't change. I was also a lieutenant one day, and it took me time. The other aspect, which is come out from a study in Stanford University, is that leadership is 12% knowledge, 88% is dealing with human beings. How you relate to each other, to relate to other fellow colleagues or outsiders. So please remember that it is being able to deal appropriately with others. Knowledge is important, no doubt about that, but this is more important. And in all that, I feel that sound character is one asset which works in all fields. Sound character, it forms a major component of sustained leadership. What is character? Character really is a sum total of you, your good points and your weak points. You put them together, at the end of it, what you get is your character. So if you have got good points in you, something good in you, it will show you. And that's what you want to do. You want to increase that good part, and you want to consciously decrease the poor part. Right? But please remember, character, values, these are something which is very, very important. Leaders are seldom born. I don't believe it that, there are many people who will be born with a silver spoon in their mouth. Yes, but it is not necessary that they will become good leaders. You see so many people in politics, even in business, they are a result of self-belief, determination, yes, your own, hard work, opportunity, and experience. As you grow up, you will gain experience, and I will show you the importance of experience. So it is really your belief in yourself, it's your hard work, it is your opportunity that comes in the way. Some people are more lucky than the others, but opportunities are those you have to pick up, you have to identify, and of course, as I said, experience. And I mentioned to you that I took a very long time to reach where I did. It took me 42 years, almost 40 years, to reach the Chief of Army Staff. Let's just go over on a few important traits. And as I mentioned, character, ethics, and values, this is the most important. And this is incidentally most sustainable when you are dealing with people. And particularly in times of stress. After all, you become a leader and you are accepted as a leader in times of stress. Today you people are remembering me. Why? Because of Kargil war. That was a point of stress for all of us. So what really brings out the best in you is your good character and values. This is extremely important. And I just mentioned morals, standards of behavior, right conduct. And Satyam Vada Dharmam Chara is something that I learned in my IMA days, that speak the truth and do and appropriately to your position, work that. There are some important aspects which we have to pay greater attention, like discipline. Now discipline is not what people think it is, marching and wearing the same uniform, boots, being banged on the ground and all. You know, some people relate that to the army, you have a good discipline. Some people also say you have an army act, therefore you have a good discipline. That is not the thing. Discipline really is organizing yourself in a manner that your energies are not wasted. You channelize your energies in a manner that you get the maximum output out of it. Punctuality is part of it. If you are punctual, fine, you will be able to achieve much more. If you are not, God help you. And unfortunately, that is one trait which seems to be getting neglected. And not during the office hours, but I find people call me at home for drinks or for dinner, and when I land up at home on time, I find that the hosts are embarrassed because they are not ready. But if I don't turn up in time, they say, "Kaise general hai, wo to time per bhi nahi aata." So, but the importance of discipline, you know, and punctuality, making sure that you don't cross, you don't jump the red lights. You know, standing in a queue is always better than trying to force your way outside the queue and getting to windows or doors or wherever it is. I mean, that is part of your discipline. Loyalty, indeed, I mean, that's something that has to come from within you. Loyalty to your organization, to your team. A lot of people, I'm telling you, you know, when we talk of country, nation, all soldiers have that in the back of their mind. Always, they have to keep it, they do keep it. But finally, many people die in war because of their colleagues, of their loyalty to the regiment. At that time, when that, you know, when you're facing bullets, nation, yes, you are fighting for the nation, but you overcome your fear, or you even get killed sometimes, because you want to save life of your colleagues, because you want to, the honor of your regiment, you want to make sure that that is maintained. So that is the kind of loyalty. Team spirit, you have to identify yourself with colleagues, and the more transparent you are in your team, better it is. Transparency in the team is extremely important if you want them to follow you. Delegation, duty, perform allotted duty. I will quote Gita, which says that if you perform your allotted duty, you go to heaven. That's what they say for the soldiers. You know, there's a quote in Gita. They just thought I'll hint to it. Moral courage. Now, this is a question which is asked quite often to me. You know, these days of bribery, these days of corruption and all sorts of things, what do we do? But that is where you have to then, you know, your values come in. Please remember that once you start indulging in it, whether somebody who is giving a bribe or somebody who is accepting a bribe, then there is no end to it. You will carry on doing that. And you will never be able to face the world confidently. So I am one who will always recommend, don't ever give a bribe, don't ever take it. Don't be. Today, our biggest problem in our society is corruption. And, you know, again, it is upholding of your values, it is upholding of the principles as well. And you must adhere to them under pressure. Let me tell you one thing, as you grow senior, you will come under tremendous pressure. The political boss will tell you, usko promote karo, usko udhar karo, usko ye karo. I can tell you one thing, I didn't do it. For 3 years I was chief. Sometimes we had a fight, me and the minister. In one occasion, I went to the Prime Minister, I said, I won't do it. Because you are asking me to do something wrong. There is a board which has given its decision, and we will go by the board decision. And same people, today they respect me much more for what I did. You know, today they respect me much more for the adherence to principles, adherence to values, that moral courage that we should. And this happens not me. I mean, I'm giving you my example, but there are so many other examples that you will see in life. Personal example is always important, very important. And please don't ask your colleague to do something if you can't do it yourself. Remember Gandhiji, somebody went to him and he said, why don't you tell so-and-so to do A, B, C, D. He said, okay, come back to me after a few days. So when he went back, he said, well, I've now come back. Why did you ask me to come back after 10 days? He says, because I wanted to practice it myself. So it is important. Now this is a credo of the Indian Military Academy. The safety, honor, welfare of your country comes first, always, every time. Honor the honor, welfare and comfort of the men you command. Here you can also mention about your colleagues, people who are working under you. That comes next, and your own ease, comfort and safety comes last, always and every time. All soldiers, commissioned officers, when they pass out from IMA, they take a kind of an oath, because this is the credo which is ingrained in them. And that is how they're supposed to lead the rest of their life in the armed forces. And I think it is applicable to everyone. You know, if you are being driven around by a driver, and if it's lunchtime, you are going to some place for lunch, I think it would be very nice if you can ask the driver, what about your lunch? Where are you going to have? He will never forget you. I can give you any number of stories that, you know, subordinates must be also looked after. Here we don't do it. We take them for granted. Never do that. They are all members of your team I'm talking about. I want to pass a message, you know, particularly these days that people are forgetting about nationalism, people are forgetting about what the country stands for. Never forget your country. It is not only the armed forces who should be remembering the country during crisis. Every one of us, when we talk of national security, it is not only for the defense forces, our police forces. It is meant for everyone. National security includes economic development. Every one of us has got a role. How can we ever forget our country? And that is why I wrote that article. I don't know how many of you got to read that. You know, I got angry that day. And so I just want to pass, never ever forget your country. Secondly, we are a country which still has a very large population of have-nots. People who are deprived. And that is why today all business houses are also focusing their attention on CSR. And CSR is not, it is not meaning give them a few dollars. It is identifying yourself with everyone to be able to do something to give it back to society. Otherwise you will have people, you know, if you have a bigger gap between the corporate sector and the others who do not have anything, you may have even a revolution one day. So you can't afford to keep on increasing the gap between the haves and the have-nots. You must try consciously to bridge the gap by the right means, not by giving them those. I don't believe in that. But doing something for the society where it is. And this is what I want to mention, practicing values and corporate development. These are not contradictory things. You know, corporate governance today, we are laying more and more emphasis on that. And even the other day, a law, now it's probably the cabinet has passed it, so it will become a law one of these days. So you have the shareholders today, you know, having greater, they have been empowered more to be able to question people as to how they are. So the corporate governance really means that you have to practice those values and for the development of the boards today. Can't be taking everyone, all the shareholders for granted. They have to work. Professional knowledge, never ending. Even at my age and even after my retirement, I'm still learning. I have learned a great deal today after having seen the corporate sector, how it works. Or when I go and talk to people like you, given the opportunity to come and speak to you. So now I know much. So there is so much of knowledge in the world. And you must, professional knowledge is always important. I mean, knowledge is there, but professional knowledge, and I have again quoted Gita, on earth there is no purifier as great as knowledge. I'll come back to this quote of what it means to, or what it should mean to us. Awareness, extremely important, and here I am referring to social awareness, political awareness, economic awareness, and technological awareness. Please make them as the more important factors in whatever problem that you have in front of you. If you have to work in Northeast, if you have to do some marketing in Northeast, if you have to, or anywhere else for that matter, if you don't know the complete political situation, social environment, economic situation, the logistics of that place, all these things, you cannot succeed. So therefore, awareness is what is required. And for that, I always recommend people, please keep reading newspapers, spare time. Other TV channels, not some of the TV channels, but there are some good channels also. But the whole issue, the whole idea is that you must remain aware of whatever is happening. You should be able to speak, you should be able to discuss, and you should have enough knowledge before you step into doing something in those areas. Lack of awareness can lead to faulty decisions. Leader, there is no leader unless he can have visualized what he wants. Must have a vision, must have a lakshya. And only when you know what you want and you can clearly tell that to your team, only then you are a leader. Otherwise, so before you address your team on any mission, make it very clear what is required in very simple terms and say we will go for it. I am giving you an example. During Kargil war, right in the beginning, somewhere I went addressing the people, and this is what I said to them. The enemy has started the fight, but it is we who will fire the last shot, and the war will end on our terms. I didn't remember what I said, but later on people told me, sir, you said it at so-and-so place. It will become a quote now. But now I can give you that as an example. I mean, this is what it means, that your lakshya has to be very clear. And your determination must reflect in that. That I'm not going to, stop at anything till we have achieved the aim. We were talking about communication skills, and Mr. Lima showed me the room for developing those communication skills, and I was very impressed because one of the more important things that you are learning obviously here is it's not just articulation, it's not just ability to write or speak, it's your body language that counts today. You must focus more on your body language. Same word spoken in different forms can be meaningless or can be meaningful. The way you convey that. Please focus on body language. And I tell you, I haven't come across a better person on this aspect than Field Marshal Malik. A man, he didn't know many languages. He would talk to people at different levels, different people, different this thing, and yet his body language conveyed, the spirit between him and the person who was being addressed. He could, just come, if he shook hand, as if the blood passed from him to you. That kind of, and he had just the right few words to speak. But I was always impressed by his body language. And I was lucky and fortunate that I started seeing him from the time I was a major. So communicate in the language, substance, and style that your audience understands. If you are speaking to class 4 employees, there is no point in, talking high-flouting, that kind of a language. Get on to their language. Speak to them at that level. That's very important. That is communication. A lot of people will tell you some semantics, this, that, no. Don't get involved in all that. Simple, straight language which touches the heart. Always will do that. sometimes I get worried with the kind of language that we study in management schools. But team spirit I have showed you, and this is a photograph taken in Siachen sector, Siachen. And you know, there people are living in very small teams, 7, 8, 10, 20, 30. And there is no way that you can coexist, or you cannot run it unless you have that team spirit in you. One for all for one. That's the kind of a spirit that you have there. And that's the most difficult area to fight, I can assure you, in the whole world. You know, as you grow senior, you will have to decentralize. What you are doing today, tomorrow you will expect somebody else to do it, so that because you have got a greater and more important responsibility. So decentralization, empowerment becomes necessary. And all that depends is, you know, it's linked to trust that you have. What kind of a trust you have? So there are more number of people whom you can trust, better it is for you. If there are lesser number of people whom you can trust, well, something is wrong. So develop that trust with people, and you will have more choices and more options for decentralization and empowerment. As a junior leader, you do what you are being told to do from the top. Okay, you learn to go into details. Everything you have to do, I'm going to do A, B, C, D. If somebody had to arrange my talk here, I'm sure you would have gone into details, you know, all that. So you go into all the details and the thing that is doing. As you grow senior, then I'm just telling you, you don't work that way. You know what details are. But you don't spend too much of time on those details. You don't do it yourself. You create an environment, a conducive environment, where your junior leaders can then work and achieve the aim that you have laid for them. As an army chief, I was not fighting. I had given the directions that this is what has to be done, and there were people, you know, large number of people below me who well knew this is what we have to do it. But my job was then to facilitate all that. Whatever I have told them to do, they should be politically meeting ministers, meeting diplomats, meeting, you know, anybody else, to facilitate that. That becomes your job. So that you can do only once you have gone through the mill. That is why I always say experience is very important. Change is something which always takes place, and that's my biggest claim with the government of India. You take a proposal to somebody in this, you know, ministries and all. So when you take a proposal, it says it will cost so much, it will take so much of time, etc. He says, but where is the precedence? If there was a damn precedence, I would bring a new proposal to you. Would I? You know, this business of checking on the principle, and they will take on, you know, they will take months together to see where is the precedence. What kind of precedence are you talking? I am going ahead. So, please anticipate change, learn to anticipate change, be prepared for that, and you must be working on that likely change even when everything is going fine, because the change will come. Everything will not remain hunky-dory all the time. It will come, whether on account of economic, political, technological, whatever, you know, new innovations taking place, political changes taking place, something or the other will change. And that change will affect your business or whatever you are doing. So please anticipate that and don't always look for precedents. Motivation is important. You must develop the ability to motivate people to your achievement. As you grow up, motivation can make people do impossible work. I'll give you some live example in the subsequent part of my talk, and you'll be shocked what we were able to do, how we were able to motivate each other and do things which nobody in the world thought would become possible. And it is important in the corporate world also, because unless you are able to, motivation really means more money at the end of it. That's what I am trying to show in the what I have written. You want people to have job satisfaction, you want people to, perform well, financial results will always come in because of that. And seniors need to spend, I get a little worried these days when people are communicating with each other with their staff only on laptops, email messages. That's dangerous. Because unless you are able to show your face to each other, you will never be able to have that kind of communication that we are talking about. Please remember that these are facilities, but these facilities must not govern you, must not take control of you. Ultimately, when we are talking of leadership, it's your face, it's your personality that is coming. So even if you are doing a lot of communication on the sending messages, SMS, this, that, and all, Blackberries and all, that is all fine, but do find time to talk to each other. I always loved those 15 minutes of my break during my office timing when I could have a cup of tea with everybody around me. So that becomes important. I'm just giving you some live example of what it meant. During Kargil war, I didn't fire a single shot, I can assure you. I was not required to. But my job was to go around, motivate people, ask them what are their problems, etc. I didn't even make any plans. Let me be clear on that. I was working at a strategic level. The operational planning, the tactics, and everything was at a junior level. But I used to go and meet them and talk to them, find out what their difficulties are. And there are a few hints that I want to just quickly give it to you. Leadership is no charisma or exotic traits. As I said, that these are skills that can be learned and that can be practiced. Action is what I always emphasize. Action is making use of an opportunity. That means that you have to identify an opportunity and then act on it. All actions without exceptions culminate in knowledge. Again, I said I will refer back to Gita, because at one place they talk about knowledge, but at the other place it talks about action. What I am trying to say here is that when you act, when you get into some act, do something, automatically you gain more knowledge also. So between the two, action becomes more important than just gaining knowledge. That is why I think our business schools are much better off than most other academic institutions, where we have people who teach a lot of theory, but they don't practice. Here, luckily, in the business schools in India, you have people who are teaching as well as practicing. And in any case, you get more. That's where I think the business schools today are doing better than most of the other institutions. You want a good mix of the two. Between the two, more important is application, action. Here is something that I want to teach you that we learn in the armed forces. When you initiate any action, it creates some reaction. It will, somewhere, whatever action that you have initiated, it will create something, good, bad, indifferent, whatever it is. Now, you have to observe that as to what is happening. And once you have observed that, and again you have oriented that with the new atmosphere, with the new environment that it has got into, and then you take another decision on that. Because now it's a new situation. So you take another decision and you act on that. So there is a cycle, what we call in the armed forces OODA loop, O-O-D-A, which means observe, orient, decide and act. Now I put a clock here to pass a message to you that anyone who can go through this loop faster than his adversary will always win. Shall always win. So please remember that It is finally this loop that you have to cross faster than your competitor, faster than your adversary. And if you can do this, you will never lose. Perpetual optimism, force multiplier, obviously. Smile on your face. You know, I like that ad which says, "Hum hai na." So it just gives you confidence. Hum hai na. Sometimes I tell my wife, I don't know whether she believes in that or not. Trust begins, trust obviously, and that is how you develop your relationship. Do not always run. I mean, I am one of those who says, I don't like workaholics. You know? And if you do spend your time with family, this is what corporate sector is unfortunately again missing out. You know, people don't remember the spouses. In the armed forces, spouses play a very important role. That is why we say it's a way of life. Cantonment is a way of life. The spouses play a role, the children are there, everybody is there. You know, you feel for each other. If people have gone, there's a war on, somebody has gone to the front, the others will look after their family. And that is how you build, you know, the camaraderie, the spirit, the core, all these things, which is extremely important. And I do hope that our corporate sector learns from these services on binding, that's how you bind teams together. And I've said no one likes a grim workaholic or the pompous, pretentious colleague. If I had one, I'd send him to Pakistan. Being responsible means not being nice sometimes. You know, these are very hard decisions sometimes you have to take. The moment you are very young, you don't have to face this situation. But Mr. Nima will tell you, and I can tell you, that sometimes when you find that somebody is not coming up to your expectation, not doing well for the organization, you have to sack him. You have to first warn him and sack him. It becomes a very hard decision to take, but you have to develop that. In fact, very long ago, in Time magazine, I read this, that, you know, on management and on leadership, that the number one quality they had put down, ability to sack the person who is ineffective or who is not. That is what they put number one. If you have that ability, so whether it is 1 or 9 or 5, I don't care. But you have to be conscious of this, because you can't afford to have your team let down by people who are inefficient or who are not following what is to be done. Happy, content with your achievements, never let them go to the head. I always give this advice to our young colonels. When they become full colonels, that's the first time that they get a command. And I say that, look, command is a heady wine. In your case, let's say manager. It's a heady wine. You know, you say, we will do this, everybody says, yes, we will do this. But if you sip that slowly, you will enjoy it. It's a heady wine, it goes to your head, that kind of position. But if you drink it fast, you will fall flat on your nose and you will be nowhere. So please keep your feet on the ground. Don't get taken in suddenly by something that you have done, which is, people are saying wow, wow, and then you lose your sense of balance. Don't ever do that. Don't let it go to your head. I'm going to give you a few, you know, somebody said war, so there is war. Just a few glimpses of Kargil war to give you, again, to show you what I had mentioned earlier. I think I'll skip that. It's going to take a little time. It's just talking about the picture. Most of us in May '99 thought that, you know, they were mujahideen, people who were militants who have come into our territory, and therefore we could not take full action even when we got to know. You know, the rules of engagement against militants is different to against the regular soldiers from the other country. So initially we all thought that it was that, but events proved otherwise. I'm afraid the sound is not working. Can somebody help? Because I do would like the sound to be. Have you connected that? Okay, we will come to that next time. I don't know if you can handle that. But I think keep a mic here. This is just a quick glance on the map. POK stands for Pakistan occupied Kashmir, and the purple line is line of control, and this yellow line is actual ground position line in Siachen area. That's indicating Siachen area, and you can see Srinagar on our side and Rawalpindi on the other side. These are the pictures of Kargil sector taken in May 1990. We will get to see the kind of terrain that we have there. This is May 1990 in Kargil sector. This is famous Tiger Hill. The mountains which are facing the sun, once the sun is hot in the month of end of May or June, this is what happened in June, suddenly you find the snow melts and literally the mountainside starts burning. This is another picture taken during that period. That is why people thought that we will never be able to, get back to these peaks. This is Malik sector, photograph taken on 14th of May, and again showing you what kind of terrain it was. And here is an approximate line of control with purple. I mean, it's not marked on the ground, I can assure you. It's marked on the map only, but it just indicates to you what kind of boundary we have with Pakistan there. Now, here again the map is showing purple line is the line of control, and the red lines are all roads and tracks. The small villages on the Pakistani side are marked with red, and villages or towns in blue are marked which are marked in blue are on our side. And you can see Srinagar, Kargil, the road connection as it is there. Now you can't get off the road, you really have to be along the road only. And why the Pakistanis did that, what were their aims, which we got to know later, not when it was happening, but this is what they were trying to do. Turtuk is a village which is on the line of control, which we had captured in 1971, and they have never been able to digest that till today. And that is why they keep on saying that you did this, and they obviously wanted to recapture. Incidentally, Pakistani army never told its people that Siachen is now with us and it is not on their side. They keep telling their own people publicly that no, Siachen is part of our territory. But Siachen Glacier as such and the posts on the western side, they are all with us. Sartoro ridge line is what is, and you find that marked along the ADP. This is what they were wanting to do. A lot of people ask me why these infiltrators come? How did they manage to come? Because most people think that we are sitting on every stone, watching every little thing. That's not correct. There are gaps. You don't have that kind of soldiers there. There will be gaps, whichever situation. If somebody wanted me to do Kargil to them, I could have done it easily too. But, people who don't understand what kind of, you saw the terrain, and look at the gaps that we had to have. No armed forces in any country will be able to have string its soldiers all along the line of boundaries. Here are the gaps just to indicate. These are deployments. So you see there is a gap, 36 kilometers, 9.5 kilometers, 9 kilometers, 35 kilometers, 26 kilometers. And if you are, it will take time for people to find out who's count. I mean, I'm not condoning the intelligence failure, I'm not condoning the surveillance failures also some places that took place. But once you see this, I mean, a deliberate attempt will succeed initially in infiltration on the other side. Well, what are the challenges before us? We had this failure of intelligence and surveillance. The intrusion and location inside our territory was not known for quite some time. We were not clear as to what were their objectives. Just a few days before, they had shaken hands in Lahore and signed this Lahore Declaration, and everything was Jaffi Pana and all that. We saw that on the photograph. So, at that, everything was so unclear, and we had to prepare for both the defensive plans as well as on the offensive side if we have to do something to protect our territory. So we had to prepare for all those contingencies because of this fluid situation, uncertainty. Terrain logistic difficulties I showed you. We knew that any operation will be slow, they will take time, and in mountains you tend to suffer more casualties, because of the slow movement that takes place. So it required extra logistic, extra planning, and then the political directions right in the beginning we were told, don't cross the line of control. It's like tying one hand to the back, don't take it. Now, initially we thought why, so we challenged that. But after speaking to the cabinet a number of times, because I was now attending meetings thrice a day, almost twice and thrice a day, I realized that they were right. The political direction, they had a purpose behind that. You can't suddenly go across two nuclear nations, just become nuclear states, and then you wage a war, cross into the territory in such large numbers. Nobody's going to accept it. The main worry was that in case we are stopped because of our crossing the line of control or the boundary, then what happens to the territory where they are sitting? And of course, we do nuclear nations. Anyway, we accepted that and we said we'll see how things proceed forward. I mean, that was the clear indication given to the cabinet also. Situation on China and Bangladesh border, it had to be watched because, all the time something or the other is happening in our country. So these were the challenges. So major, I'm just indicating to you what our strategy was. Somewhere used the word, sir, will you tell us about the strategy? So the strategy was quite simple. Here is this boundary, and you see that red intrusion in Kargil sector. So we said, well, this is what we are going to do to make sure that we get back our territory. And we had positioned all our formations on the border. Not many of you came to know that time. And not only the army, but the navy and the air force also. And we started tailing their ships, for example, from the Gulf right up to Karachi, because we had the superiority, and they got panicky because of all that was taking place. There were clear visual signals sent to them that, look, we will not stop at doing anything unless we are able to get this vacated. It involved a lot. It involved troops being sent to Kargil, formations deployed on the border. We had these strike corps, almost 60,000 people with all the armament and everything. So they were, some of them which are supposed to go on the other side, they were put on a very short notice. In fact, I can tell you that they were on 6 days notice. That I give you 6 days, and after 6 days I want to see you on the other side. That was the kind of preparation one had to make. So many special trains which moved at night, most of them. No water. Ammunition, the kind of ammunition that we have to move, part of Eastern Fleet from Vizag side, it moved all across from below Sri Lanka to the Arabian Sea. Air Force also deployed all its bases. We were really ready for an all-out war. And that was a signal, very clear signal sent to Pakistan. This is, I'm afraid, the sound is not working, and without that, the next slide which I have is something you will not be able to Is there anything that you have to do it here? This is a clip of when the Pakistani soldiers at one place came to collect the dead bodies from us. And this is only at one place, the 2 dead bodies that they picked up. But 270 Pakistani soldiers' dead bodies, people belonging to northern areas, we buried them in our territory. They disowned them. I have written all that in my book. Obviously, Parvez Musharraf is not going to say about that, but like I can tell you that. Sound is just not working. Because next slide is important, you know. Take it to me. Can you make it forward? Okay, this is not so important as far as sound is concerned, but there will be one more slide that will come. That is important. Motivation I mentioned to you. Job of an important job of a leader. And I think the picture tells you the tale, what it is really meant. You have to be everywhere to hold everybody's hand. And if the team is large, well, you have to be. That's what I said. Don't stick to your chair. Be out. You know, spend more time, space time outside. This is motivation. This is leadership at that level, you know. And I'm sure all of you would have heard of Vikram Batra, and unfortunately we lost him just a few days after the script was taken. And you heard Prakash's voice on the TV channel. I am going to talk to you about 2 letters that we received. The parents received. One written by Major Acharya, whom we lost on 29th June. And this letter was written just a few days before that. And I'll read it out. This is dated 19th June. And he says, "Dear Papa," his father was a retired wing commander. "Hope this letter finds you in the best of health and spirits. Thanks for your letter and card, greeting card, dated 14th June. W, that is his brother, must be fine, or else I would have come to know. We must understand that he would also be quite busy preparing for their share of the game. He was also in the services. We are also ready, getting for our next task. Our unit now has to live up to the high expectations of the Army regiment. Please note that. That's what I meant by team. As well as the media. You know what, even the chief sent a letter of congratulations to the unit. It was indeed an honor for our unit to have been given such a task. Hard work and sound ethos does have its magic, don't you think so? You know, just before this letter he wrote, his battalion had captured Toloring, and I had sent a letter of congratulations to all of them. I had met some of them also. We now have more work. We have to work harder to preserve the hopes and aspirations of our well-wishers. Please don't worry about casualties. It's a professional hazard which is beyond our control, so why worry? At least it's for a good cause. And then he quotes Bhagavad Gita, the same thing, that whoever dies in war goes to heaven, you know. I mean, that's the kind of spirit that he reflected. there. Now we are not, no, we are not air maintained. Air maintained means that the food, etc., coming to be dropped by the air. So we are, food is good, and we have a doctor with us. In the, yes, the Prime Minister's Kargil visit was a good motivation. PM had visited on 13th of June, and I had accompanied him that time. The PM's Kargil visit was a good motivation, good chap. That's how he assesses the Prime Minister. I'm quite a sight now with an unkempt beard and wrestling glue all over my ugly face to counter the icy waves. Please tell Manam that combat is an honor of a lifetime, and I would not think of anything less. What better way to serve the nation? I'm proud to be in the infantry and especially in our illustrious battalion. Take care of your health as well as Manam. Does it mean in Andhra, it means mother, no? That's what it is. Don't worry and lose sleep. Tell a story a day of the Mahabharata to Charu, that's his wife, so that your grandchild can buy good values. Yours affectionately, Babu. His wife Charu was expecting that first child. There's another letter. Dearest Papa, Mummy, Buddy, and Granny, by the time you get this letter, I'll be observing all of you from the sky, enjoying the hospitality of Apsaras. I have no regrets. In fact, even if I become a human again, I'll join the army and fight for my nation. If you can, please come and see where the Indian Army fought for you tomorrow. As far as this unit is concerned, you chaps should be told about the sacrifice. I hope my photo will be kept in the A Company Mandir. Whatever organ can be taken should be done. Contribute some to orphanage and keep on giving 50 rupees to Ruxana. That was a child which his battalion had adopted in jail. Best of luck to Buddy, that's his brother. Never forget the sacrifice of these men, Papa, so you should be proud. Mama, so should you. Mama ji, forgive me for everything wrong I did. Okay, then it's time for me to join my clan of dirty dozens. My assault party has 12 chaps. Best of luck to you all. Live life, kingside, yours, Robin. And this letter, hours before he was killed, was written by Captain Vivian Harper to his family. And please note that when he writes this letter, just hours before, there is no shaking of hand anywhere. Everyone needs motivation. I also needed motivation because I found that the atmosphere in Delhi was very oppressive. Everybody with a self-guarded, long face. You know, I also needed to get out of that. And when you go and meet people like him, Vijay Thapar, Vikram Batra, you can see what was happening on the front. I felt motivated. And I must have mentioned somewhere that I wanted to, whenever I wanted to boost my morale, I would go to the front and get reassured. Nobody ever told me, sir, it can't be done. So the will to deliver was always high. Operational planning, strategic planning, everything. Courage, determination, camaraderie, junior leadership, and morale. That's how you build the spirit of your team. That is what leadership is meant for. This is one of the pictures taken. You know, you have the tiger head at the back, the air chief and me. So how do I want to conclude? I want to give you two quotes. India is an old country but a young nation, like young anyway. Who could have said that? Rajiv Gandhi was the youngest prime minister that you will have. Okay, he said, this is a quote from him. And there is another quote. He was not so young. He was the oldest prime minister that you will have. I am a political person. I have to take somebody from Congress and somebody from BJP. So you have both people, both prime ministers speaking. This is the way they are now thinking of the nation, and why not? And that's the message that I want to leave behind. Let's get ready for the marathon. And I know that we can do it. We can do it. Thank you.
Any questions now?
Can I have the mic here?
Sir, Indian Army has been...
I think you need to show your face so everybody to me. Just give your name, please.
I am Gaurav.
Okay.
I want to ask, like, you have told many good things about this Indian Army, but many times, mostly in Kashmir actually, the army has been accused of the atrocities on the people actually. I personally have experience where a person in Kashmir, where he wanted to be with Pakistan rather than being with India. So your thoughts on that?
You know, firstly, bad news always makes more TRPs and circulation and always. So therefore, the media will always pick on bad news. You will do 10 good things, they will be forgotten, but one bad news will be. Please remember that. That's the way media functions in all countries. But having said that, now we've been dealing with people there for a very long time. Terrorists are there. They're not wearing any badges. They don't wear uniforms. So you don't know who's a terrorist and who's not. And you are facing a situation where suddenly somebody just starts firing from, that choga that they wear. From their the bullet will come and hit you. They will be firing from odd places in the market. Somebody will suddenly throw a grenade at you. They have fired. I've commanded a division there. They will fire from the mosque. They will fire from the hospitals where we are not supposed to fire at all. So you are facing a very difficult situation. Let me tell you that fighting a war of the kind that we did in Kargil subsequently is much easier than fighting terrorism here. Now, everywhere in such situation, they are here because there are some people who are supporting them. There are many Kashmiris who are still supporting them. You have Syed Ahmad Gilani, who is today also saying, we want to join Pakistan. How can you permit that? So the armed forces, the police people, they have a very difficult job to do. And you will, in that kind of a job, where people are there for days and months and years sometimes to get doing that kind of a thing, there will be some aberrations. You cannot avoid it. Those are the aberrations which get picked up. Nobody can deny the fact that there will be aberrations, that there are aberrations. But as long as we are setting an example of those aberrations, those people are being punished for the aberrations that they have done. Rest of the army will continue, or the rest of the police forces will continue to do the jobs. It's a difficult situation. It's not an easy situation. I, as the army chief, did not want the army to remain deployed for a very long time. Or anywhere for that matter, on this kind of jobs. So please remember all these circumstances under which these boys are fighting. And if somebody has done something wrong, I think so long as he's punished, and he's punished soon, and you are setting an example for the others, that should be all right. That is the reason why I got angry when a person like Arundhati Roy wrote thousands of people, hundreds of people. What does Arundhati Roy know about Kashmir? How many times has she been there? Has she operated under the circumstances that we have done from the time I was a brigadier or a major general or a mistake? Nobody wants his men to go and rape women because that is you are violating discipline. I don't want my troops to become indisciplined. And that was why it made me angry on that. So, please remember, situation is difficult. There are some secessionist elements, as you can see that from the videos and you know that you get. And our job is to sort them out. We cannot permit people to go and join Pakistan. Today it is the Kashmiri Muslim. Incidentally, Gilanis and all these people who are speaking so loudly in the valley, they are not known people at all in Ladakh or even in Jammu. I can tell you on the other side of Zodila, nobody knows who Sayyid Ahmad Gilani. Our media may call them every few days to the studios and make much of it. But you go and ask a Ladakhi, he wouldn't know what the hell, and he says, why the hell, I am quite alright with the rest of India. Because I get better opportunities. And more importantly, how can you let this kind of a thing happen? Tomorrow the Mizos and Mizoram, they will say, we are all Christians, so therefore we want to become independent. Will you permit that? What is our nation? We have got 68 sub-social sects, ethnic groups. Are you going to permit each one of them to go and become independent? There is a vision for the nation that we have. And that vision cannot be violated. We are a democratic society. We permit everyone to talk. Fine, everybody is free. But obviously somebody violates law and order. If somebody violates your nationhood, he wants to put up a Pakistani flag on any building, I will not permit that. So, I don't know, I heard your question. Your question was about the army people who are also doing something wrong. I have tried to explain to you how things go wrong sometimes. But that's not we have got hundreds of thousands of people. They are not committing rapes and these things every day. They are defending the country as they should. I hope I have been able to answer your question, Gaurav.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
So my name is Suyash. My question is, as you just said, the strategy for counterinsurgency warfare is very different from conventional warfare. Our soldiers are being deployed for a very long time for CI warfare. How do you ensure that they still remain trained to fight a conventional warfare while serving their duties in CI?
Yeah, everybody tends to use this word strategy in a very loose fashion. I hope you don't, strategy is really an approach towards an aim. It varies from place to place. But the rules of engagement are different in CI ops, counterinsurgency operations, and when you are fighting the enemy. Okay? Our rules of engagement for counterinsurgency operations are use of minimum force. That's the first rule that we have. Use of minimum force. Anybody who uses excessive force, he is liable to be charged. Question. That is why you will never hear of artillery being used, rockets being used, or even helicopters and the aircraft being used. We don't ever use that in the armed forces. And in fact, that way we are teaching today Americans what to do and what not to do. And you're quite right, it takes a little time for reorientation for the kind of war that takes place. And it happened in Kargil war. First few days, we suffered more casualties because those people who were suddenly sent to the front, they were disoriented. It takes time. And that is one reason why I keep saying, don't employ army excessively or for a long period in such jobs. This should be handled by the paramilitary forces and the armed police.
Sir, my name is Sharadada. I was just asking you, what is the thing about the flagging incidents that happened in Kashmir due to the excessive stress that they are operating in this civilian areas?
What is
Flagging incidents like
fratricide? Yes, it does. It's a sign of stress. It's a sign of stress. It's a sign of stress and sometimes bad management also. You know, man management, faulty, we will have these things. And therefore, every case has to be investigated in detail and lessons have to be drawn. Fratricide is never good. But today, unfortunately, what is happening is, besides the management, which is never pardonable really, because that's bad leadership. But you see, the stress today is much more because of the mobile phone. Earlier days, the person came to the front, you know, somebody else was looking after his family, everything was fine. But today he gets a message from his wife that today I have not got along well with my mother-in-law, some problem at home. She passes it on the cell phone to him, and he's also disturbed. He wants to come on leave immediately. Everybody cannot go on leave. I'm just giving you an example. I mean, I don't think it should be taken really lightly. But the stress has definitely increased on account of these difficulties. But bad management is never pardonable. That's what is important.
So I just want to ask, has this country done enough for the army? Like, we don't have a war memorial. The army has to fight for better pay commissions. So how long can the army be motivated under such circumstances?
Why are you asking me? You should be asking this question.
No, as an ex-army man,
Ask Mr. Delima.
I don't have the answer.
No, sir, as an ex-army man,
You can ask the question.
so as an ex-army man, do you really believe the army can be motivated under these circumstances?
That's the problem. That's why many people are not joining the army. You know, this is one of the major difficulties that we are facing. How do you expect people to join the army when you are not looking after? Today, if you ask me, which is the biggest problem that the armed forces in India are facing, it's not the lack of equipment. It's the manpower getting demotivated. People are not joining. There are thousands of vacancies today which are not filled. Yes, sir.
Very often, as a child, I remember when I was in a school, okay, we always felt at that time, 1965, that we had a very good advantage which we squandered of possibly liberating the Kashmir also. One always wonders what are the compulsions that we sometimes squander this advantageous position. You mentioned that there was a political compulsion this time also, asking you not to cross the LOC. But at that point of time, in 1965, there was nothing like nuclear preparation or the Holocaust that would ensure. But it has always intrigued us, why didn't we go ahead and finish the possible wars and wars that were repeated thereafter?
I think it's a very valid question. And you know, I believe you're quite right that we went wrong in 47, 48. We didn't prepare ourselves for 62, and that's why 62 happened. 65, you have given an example. We had Ajipir with us at that time, and we gave it back to them, you know. And 71 war, we had 92,000 prisoners of war. We gave it back to them, and Kashmir remains where it is. Now, I have written an essay, and I think if you get a chance sometime to read it, it's on India's strategic culture. Unfortunately, I think it has something to do with our strategic culture. When I talk of strategic culture, for me, what it means at the level of, let's say, political leadership and the military leadership, it's having a long memory and a longer foresight. Okay, now look at what we have done to our country. The last time we were, as a country, we were free, we had our own kings and all. It happened either in Chandragupta Maurya's time or it happened in that Gupta dynasty, which is 32, 33 BC, or later on, I think 200 or 300 AD. After that, people came from abroad, they started ruling us. Today they are part and parcel of our society, is a different matter. But the fact is that they came from abroad, they ruled us. Whether they were Muslims or they were Portuguese or they were, French or English, all these people. One of the major problems that we have is our lack of consensus, disunity. You invite people to come and do things. If you go into detail of your history in all this period, you will find somebody or the other was, we were disunited and we invited people to come and do it to us. And the other reason that I can think of, again strategic culture, as I pointed out, is that it's a good thing to have thinking of Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam, the whole world is one family. Fine. But that's not realism, it's idealism. Today the nations are having cutthroat in competition with each other. So, yes, soft power is always important, and our country is spiritually very strong. We can take great pride in that. But to be able to have your way of life, you also need hard power. Otherwise, how do you protect yourself? You also need unity. You also need, people. That's why, I cannot stand anybody who talks of that Kashmir go to the other side. That is why I cannot stand somebody saying that Northeast may, They have to be dealt with. Give them a chance to speak. Talk to them. Everything is fine. You have your constitution. Go by the constitution. But if the person is not wanting to follow your constitution, I'm afraid he has to be, So I feel that even today, we are failing in our strategic cultures. We must understand what our strategic culture is. Can you imagine that some years ago, if I recall, it was Akshardham temple where we had this attack and all. Do you remember that? Some soldiers, NST people went and all that. Some of them were killed also. And what did our government that time do? I think BJP was in power that time. Strike for 2 days. Go on strike for Bangla. What is Mamata doing today for the single thing? That's the kind of, this is not strategic culture. This is bad strategic culture. Somebody wants to invest hundreds of thousands of rupees, and this is the way we are answering that. So I think we all have to understand the weakness in our strategic culture, and my message is that however good your soft power is, you have to have compatible hard power to protect that values and system that you have got. All the values are mixed if you cannot protect it.
So it is very well summed up, this continuation of that. When Prithviraj Chauhan went to ask his Acharya, so this Ghori is shameless. 16 times we have defeated him. Still he comes back to be defeated for 17th time. His Acharya tells him, look my son, you think he is wrong. Why should he have been allowed to come second time? Check where the wrong is best to be.
No, but you also have the same story tells you about Gachan. You had people who invited him. So that's the point. I'm trying to that yes, things go wrong, you must analyze. But political consensus is very important. Kashmir, today whatever has happened would not have happened if we had some consensus. That's why I wrote that article. I don't know whether you read it. Okay. Can we open the door? I'm feeling, I'm very jacket. Bad things to do that here.
You mentioned about the need for a deep sense of history.
Yes.
And a lot of past.
Deeper, I said, long memory and a longer foresight, yes.
Now, whether we have it or not, you will agree that the powers that be around us have that. And in the context of the Chinese episodes, there has always been a feeling that when it comes to crunch, we may not be able to stand up to them. Do you think this?
No, it's not correct that we will not be able to stand up to them. You know, it depends on circumstances. I mean, they are definitely a bigger country and more powerful country as it stands today. But you know, going to war is not so easy also. International opinion, there are so many other factors which come into play. They themselves don't want to go to war because they are worried about, you know, their own economy. They want to progress faster. They want to be number one. We are not the same as we were in 1962. We've also developed. We also got more power. We got more money. We are better off than, you know. So it's not a question of they versus us. We can, I think we can defend ourselves adequately. But I feel that because we are both now nuclear powers, there's no likelihood of a major open war with China. But we can have skirmishes with each other. We can have small wars, limited wars, because of the dispute that we have on the border, primarily. And we have to be alert, we have to be prepared for that. So while we develop our economic relations and other relations, which is fine, which is what is required today in the world, but along with that, we cannot give up the harder side of it. Yeah.
We'll take one last question.
Good evening, sir. My name is Aditya. So you made a transition.
Can we have the last question from a girl? Because I find that not one of them has spoken. I want to tell them that there are many girls in the army today. Right? So I think they should also be taking interest in whatever is happening.
Right. So you made a transition from the military to the corporate world. So can the reverse take place? Like we as trade managers, do we have any role to play in the Indian army?
Yes. Yes.
So just what is the scope? So where can we get into and what can we look after?
I think one place which gives an opportunity is the territorial army. One should look at that. Territorial army you can join for 2 years and then come out. But the problem is that today no boss wants to spare his young people for the territorial army because that means for a short while these persons are away. There are some problems I noticed taking place, but territorial army gives an opportunity. What I am also now trying to advocate with the government is that the times have changed. So give them an opportunity to serve for a short period also to everybody. We can have people serving for 5 years, then going back to wherever they want to, they come from. That way, there are many young people who come and speak to me that I want to join, like just now. And I think if they come to the army for 5 years, and they will benefit, and so will the army benefit from their experience, obviously. And it's not one way, it has to be a two-way traffic. But more important than that also is the spirit that you will inculcate in every Indian. The spirit that you will be able to. So, these are the kind of things which are to be discussed, but like everywhere else, change is very difficult. In the armed forces, it is even more difficult than the corporate world. So they are thinking, I think, they're now looking at these areas. Today we've got girls, we were not having them earlier. Things are happening, but they are happening slowly.
Good evening, sir. My name is Aarti. My question is that, firstly, you just said that there are a lot of women in the armed forces right now. But what I want to ask is, despite the lack of officers in the army, a lot of women are not being encouraged to join the army as such. And specifically, the glass ceiling, which is that you see in the corporate world, is far more pronounced in the armed forces. What opinion do you have on that?
No, I have not understood the last bit.
So, what I mean to say is that women at the very top of the armed forces, except let's say very few cases of there there was one, I think, doctor who was there in the very top peak of the armed forces, where I think which came across 1 or 2 years back. We don't have a lot of women in the top ranks of the armed forces. What opinion do you have on that, and what do you have to say about it?
Yes, we had senior people now amongst the doctors, because that was the first profession where the women started coming, joining the army. Incidentally, my wife joined the army long ago. She served for 5 years and then she left it. And my daughter-in-law is in the army, even today. But that is because we had girls joining the medical corps, for a very long time. And some of them have risen to head the medical service in the Air Force, I can tell you that. And in the army also, she was a lieutenant general, this lady who retired. But in the other services, non-medical services, we started taking them now, except for combat service, we don't permit. Because combat service, it's not possible to give them the kind of privacy that is required, that is one. And secondly, you can't afford to have any place a girl whose body can be taken away, or who can be taken on the other side. When we take combat means it's a close combat, and prisoner of war, or anything that can happen. So we don't want our girls to get involved at that level. But now that people who, initially we took them for 5 years, then we extended their service to 10 years, and now they are also going to be given permanent commission. That's the latest that has come out. With that, I think you will see girls rising to higher ranks, or girls rising to higher ranks. A corporate world is different. Let's not compare them. The kind of money that you get from corporate world, we will never be able to give you that.
That brings us to the end of the
Okay, that brings us to the end of the questions and now. I'd like to thank General Malik for sharing with us his extremely valuable insights on leadership. He emphasized the need for good leadership in all walks of life, and the importance of traits like discipline, self-belief, hard work, team spirit, dedication, and moral courage. He also emphasized the need for empowering ourselves and the people around us to optimize our opportunities. The need for a vision, the need for motivation, and the need for awareness, be it social, political, economic, or technological. We came to know a very profound truth from him, that leadership is not a charisma, but a skill that can be cultivated. So I hope all of us have lots of inputs to take from here, and his insight into the Kargil war almost left every one of us speechless. So I would really like to thank all of, on behalf of Goa Institute of Management, I would like to thank Mr. V.P. Malik for sparing his we had organized a quiz on Indian military and India, and we have the winner of that quiz with us, Mr. Suyash Nigam. I would like you to award Suyash Nigam. Please, can you ask I would request Ms. Mandani to hand over the message to Mr.